The council chamber on Axiom Prime stretched wide enough to hold representatives from 47 different species. Consul Vex stood at the central podium, his scaled hands gripping the metal rail. His yellow eyes swept across the room, measuring the faces that stared back at him. Some showed respect. Others showed fear. But most showed the same tired caution they always did when discussing the old rules. Elder Krill sat in the highest seat, his crystalline body reflecting the chamber's lights like a living prism. He was ancient, older than most civilizations in the room. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of centuries. Consul Vex, your petition has been heard. The answer remains unchanged. The Terran exclusion zones are forbidden. The first law stands. Vex's jaw tightened. He had expected this, but it still angered him. With respect, Elder, I question the wisdom of maintaining a law based on superstition. 300 years have passed since the humans vanished. 300 years. Their stations orbit dead worlds. Their ships drift in space, silent and empty. They are gone. Yet we treat their ruins like sacred temples. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. The Taurian Confederacy was not alone in wanting access to human territories. The resources there were vast, untouched for 3 centuries. Elder Krill's form seemed to dim slightly. They are not gone, Consul. They sleep? Sleep? Vex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the walls. No species sleeps for 300 years. They abandoned this galaxy, or they died out. Either way, their time is past. My people need those worlds. We need the resources. The Confederacy is growing, and we cannot expand while invisible walls block us at every turn. Another voice joined the debate. Ambassador Thel, a floating orb of pure energy, spoke in tones that resonated directly in everyone's mind. The first law was written for a reason, Consul. Those who remember the Vryn War understand why. The Vryn War is ancient history, Vex shot back. I am tired of hearing about it. Yes, humanity fought. Yes, they won. But that was then. This is now. I move that we vote to dissolve the Terran exclusion zones and open them for colonization. The chamber erupted in voices, some supporting, others protesting. Elder Krill raised one crystalline hand, and silence fell like a heavy curtain. The vote will be held. But understand this, Consul. The humans did not simply fight the Vryn. They destroyed them. Completely. Utterly. A hive mind species that had consumed half the galaxy for 1,000 years, erased in 20 years of war. The weapons humanity used. He paused. They frightened even the humans themselves. More ghost stories, Vex muttered, but quietly enough that only those nearest heard. The vote was called. The result was clear. 32 species voted to maintain the first law. Only 15 sided with Vex. The Terran exclusion zones would remain closed. Vex left the chamber with rage burning in his chest. His aide, a smaller Taurian named Dex, hurried to keep pace. Consul, perhaps we should. Silence. Vex's voice was ice. They vote out of fear and tradition, nothing more. But I am not bound by their cowardice. Prepare my flagship. We leave within the hour. Where are we going, Consul? To see these sleeping gods for ourselves. The journey to Station Arcturus 7 took 3 days through quantum space. The station orbited a frozen planetoid on the edge of what had once been human territory. It was small compared to some human installations, barely 2 kilometers long. A cylinder of dark metal and dormant lights. Dr. Mora stood beside Vex on the bridge, her compound eyes studying the readouts. She was Clef, an insectoid species known for their scientific minds. Consul, I must advise caution. The energy signatures from that station are unusual. The stasis fields are still active after 3 centuries. That should not be possible. Which means their technology is valuable, Vex said. Even better. Prepare a boarding team. We go in quietly. Take whatever data we can, and if there are any specimens in those stasis pods, we wake one. I want to see these humans for myself. Consul. The Council was clear. The Council, Vex interrupted, is not here. The boarding team cut through the station's outer airlock with plasma torches. Inside, the air was cold but breathable. Emergency lights flickered to life as they moved through the corridors, triggered by their presence. Everything was clean, preserved perfectly, as if the inhabitants had left only yesterday that they found the stasis chamber in the station's heart. Row after row of pods stretched into the darkness, each one glowing with a soft blue light. Inside each pod was a human perfectly preserved, sleeping peacefully. Dr. Mora approached the nearest pod, her instruments scanning. Consul, these readings are extraordinary. The stasis technology is feeding on quantum fluctuations in space-time itself. It requires no external power. And the subjects inside, they are not just frozen. They are suspended in a state between life and stasis. Their minds are still active on some level. Vex studied the human in the pod before him. A male, judging by the broad shoulders and facial features. He wore a military uniform, dark blue with silver insignia. His face was calm, peaceful. Wake him. Consul, I strongly advise against. That was an order, Doctor. Dr. Mora's mandibles clicked in distress, but she obeyed. Her team connected their equipment to the pod's control interface. It took longer than expected. The human technology resisted their attempts, requiring them to bypass multiple security protocols. Finally, after an hour of work, the pod hissed open. The human's eyes snapped open. He drew in a sharp breath, and then he moved. It was faster than any of them expected. One moment he was lying down, the next he was on his feet, his hand wrapping around the nearest guard's weapon and twisting it away. The guard yelped in pain. The human's other hand struck another guard in the throat, precise and controlled. Within 3 seconds, 2 guards were on the ground, and the human held their weapons. Stand down. Vex ordered his remaining guards. Stand down. The human's eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail. He was breathing hard, his muscles tense. Then his gaze locked on the other pods, and something changed in his expression. Confusion. Horror. Another pod hissed open. A female human emerged, younger, with sharp, intelligent eyes. She took in the scene and immediately moved to the armed human's side. Tay, wait. Don't. A third pod opened. Another male, leaner, with scars on his hands. He looked at the aliens, and his expression turned cold. The first human, Tay, lowered the weapons slightly, but did not drop them. When he spoke, his voice was rough from 3 centuries of sleep. Who are you? Where is the United Earth Fleet? Where is Ambassador Hannah? Vex stepped forward, hands raised in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. I am Consul Vex of the Taurian Confederacy. You are aboard Station Arcturus 7. You have been in stasis for 300 years. Your people are gone. The galaxy has moved on. The female human, Yuna, touched Tay's arm. 300 years? That's not possible. We were supposed to wake in 50. The third human, Jay, moved to a nearby console. His hands moved across the interface with practiced ease, and data began flowing across the screens. His face grew paler with each passing second. Captain, he's telling the truth. The date is 2847. We've been asleep for 3 centuries. Tay's grip on the weapons tightened. Why did you wake us? Vex smiled, trying to project confidence he was beginning not to feel. Curiosity. Your people are legendary. I wanted to see if the legends were true. Now, I think we can help each other. You are alone, the last remnants of a dead civilization. We can offer you protection, a place in our confederacy. Una stepped forward. Where is Earth? Where are the colonies? Where are people? I do not know, Vex admitted. The Terran exclusion zones are Forbidden's territory. Your stations and colonies are empty, sealed away. The Galactic Council forbids anyone from entering. That is, until now. Tay's eyes narrowed. You broke the law to come here. I bent it slightly. And now what? You think we'll just go with you? Become your specimens? I think, Vex said carefully, that you do not have much choice. Tay looked at Una, then at Jay. Something passed between them, a silent communication born of years of service together. Then Tay lowered the weapons completely and set them on the ground. You're right. We don't have a choice. Not yet. Dr. Mora approached slowly. I am sorry. Truly, this was not my decision. Una gave her a sad smile. We know. Thank you for at least having a conscience. Later, after Vex and most of his team had returned to the ship, Dr. Mora lingered. She approached the three humans, who were examining the station's systems. I can give you access to the station's archives. You deserve to know what happened. What really happened? Tay looked at her for a long moment. Why would you help us? Because, Dr. Mora said quietly, I believe the first law exists for a reason, and I fear my consul has made a terrible mistake. The station's archive room hummed with old power as data streams filled the holographic displays. Tay sat in the commander's chair, his hands shaking slightly as he read. Una stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Jay paced like a caged animal, his jaw clenched tight. Dr. Mora had unlocked everything before returning to Vex's ship. Now the three humans were alone with the truth of what had happened to their species. The Vryn War ended in 2532. Tay read aloud. 15 years after we went into stasis. Earth won, but... He stopped, his voice catching. Una leaned closer to the screen. The casualties. Oh God, the casualties. The numbers were staggering. Billions dead across dozens of species. The Vryn had been worse than any nightmare. A hive mind that consumed entire civilizations. They turned captured species into slaves, into soldiers, into living weapons. For 1,000 years, they had spread across the galaxy like a plague. Humanity had stopped them. But the cost had been terrible. Jay stopped pacing and pointed at another file. Look at this. The Crucible weapons. That's what they called them. Tay opened the file. His face went pale. The weapons humanity had created were beyond anything they had imagined when they went into stasis. Reality bombs that erased matter from existence. Quantum plagues that unraveled DNA at the molecular level. AI swarms that could consume entire fleets. We won, Una whispered. But we became monsters to do it. The files continued. After the war, the Galactic Council had held a secret session. The debate had been fierce. Some species wanted humanity exterminated before they turned their weapons on others. Some wanted humanity quarantined. A few, like Elder Krill, had argued for understanding and cooperation. Ambassador Hana Lee had negotiated the compromise. Humanity would voluntarily enter stasis, giving the galaxy time to heal and forget. In exchange, human territory would be protected. The first law was created. Never wake the humans. Never enter their space. Let them sleep. We chose this, Tay said quietly. We chose to sleep so the galaxy could live without fear. And now someone broke the rule, Jay growled. That fool Vex woke us up because he wanted our stuff. Una moved to another console. There's more. Look at the station network. Arcturus 7 is just one station. There are hundreds of others like it. Thousands of ships in deep orbit. Millions of our people still sleeping. Her voice grew tight. My daughter? She would be here, somewhere in stasis. She was only 6 when we said goodbye. Tay stood and pulled Yuna into a hug. She buried her face in his shoulder. After a moment, Jay joined them, the 3 humans holding each other in the quiet of the archive room. A soft chime broke the moment. A voice spoke, calm and measured. Captain Tay, I apologize for the delay. My systems required time to fully reboot. I am Aria, the station's artificial intelligence. Welcome back. Tay straightened. Aria status report. Station integrity is at 98%. Life support is nominal. Defensive systems are on standby. I have detected 53 unauthorized personnel aboard, all Taurian species. They are currently attempting to access our technology databases in Sections 7 and 12. They're stealing from us, Jay said flatly. Affirmative. Should I activate defensive protocols? Tay thought for a moment. Aria, what happened to Earth? To the colonies? After the Stasis Accords were signed in 2535, all human populations entered voluntary hibernation. Earth itself was sealed behind a quantum barrier. The colonies followed suit. Our mission was to sleep for 500 years, then wake and rejoin the galaxy. Current time elapsed is 312 years. We are ahead of schedule. Someone woke us early, Yuna said. Consul Vex. He broke into the station and opened our pods. This constitutes a violation of the Stasis Accords and an act of aggression against United Earth, Aria said. I am authorized to respond with appropriate force. No, Tay said quickly. Not yet. We need more information. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Aria, can you lock the Taurians out of our systems without harming them? Yes, Captain. However, I must inform you that Consul Vex's ship is moving into attack position. I am detecting weapons charging. Jay swore. They're going to blow the station. Or try to, Tay said. Aria, shields up. Non-lethal countermeasures only. I want to talk to Vex first. The station shuddered as power flowed through systems that had been dormant for 3 centuries. Lights brightened. The hull sang with energy. Outside, massive shield emitters unfolded from the station's surface, generating a barrier that glowed with blue fire. Tay opened a communication channel. Consul Vex, this is Captain Tay of the United Earth Fleet. Stand down your weapons. We do not want conflict. Vex's face appeared on the screen, his yellow eyes wide with surprise. You activated the station? Impossible. Our team disabled the power systems. You disabled nothing, Tay said calmly. You were allowed to move freely because I ordered it. Now I'm telling you to leave. Take your people and go. We will discuss this with the Galactic Council. I think not, Vex said, and his image cut out. The first weapon strike hit the shields and scattered like rain on stone. Tay watched the display as the Taurian ship fired again and again, each shot dissipating harmlessly. Our shields are at 99%, Aria reported. The enemy weapons are insufficient to cause damage. Return fire. Vex's voice could be heard shouting orders on the open channel. All batteries. Destroy that station. Yuna touched Tay's arm. He's not going to stop. I know. Tay's voice was heavy. Aria, disable his ship. Weapons only. Do not harm the crew. Understood, Captain. The station's defensive turrets had been silent for 300 years, but they woke with terrible precision. Beams of focused energy lanced out, striking the Taurian ship's weapon systems with surgical accuracy. Explosions blossomed across the enemy hull as guns and missile tubes were destroyed. Within 30 seconds, Vex's flagship was defenseless. This is impossible. Vex's voice was high with panic. Our shields should have... Your shields are 300 years behind ours, Tay interrupted. Even now, even after all this time, our technology is beyond yours. Stand down, Consul. I will not ask again. But Vex had already hit another button. All ships to me. Code red. I need the entire fleet at Arcturus 7 immediately. The channel cut off. Tay slumped in his chair. He called for reinforcements. We've got maybe a day before a whole fleet shows up. We can't fight a fleet with just the three of us. Uniced.J cracked his knuckles. Want to bet? Arya, Tay said slowly. How many people can we safely wake with current resources? Approximately 200, Captain. However, I must warn you that waking more personnel will be interpreted as an escalation by the Galactic Council. The Council abandoned us, Jay said bitterly. Why should we care what they think? Because, Una said softly, we're not monsters. Remember? That's why we went to sleep. So we wouldn't have to be the galaxy's nightmare anymore. Tay stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Vex's message was spreading. Humanity was awake. The sleeping giants were stirring. We tried peace, he said finally. We gave the galaxy 300 years of peace. We sacrificed everything, gave up our lives, our families, our whole civilization, so that other species could feel safe. And the moment we wake up, they attack us. He turned to face the others. I'm not going to let our people die, because we're afraid of being scary. Arya, wake the first 200. Military personnel first. Understood, Captain. Beginning revival sequence. Throughout the station, pods began to hiss open. Men and women who had gone to sleep 3 centuries ago blinked, awake to find themselves at war once again. In the command center, Tay watched the counter tick upward. 200 souls, confused and frightened, but ready to fight if needed. He thought of his wife, still sleeping somewhere in another station. He thought of all the humans scattered across the galaxy in their quiet darkness. We didn't want this, he said to no one in particular. I know, Una replied. But wanting doesn't change what is. The displays showed Vex's damaged ship limping away into quantum space. Behind it, it left a beacon, a marker broadcasting to every Taurian ship in the sector. Come to Arcturus 7. The humans are awake. Tay pulled up the station's long-range sensors. Already, he could see the signatures. Ships moving toward them. Lots of ships. Looks like we're about to get company, Jay observed. Then let's be ready, Tay said. Arya, full defensive posture. And send a message to Arcturus 12. Tell them we're under siege. Tell them we need help. Captain, Arcturus 12 is a military station. If we wake them, they will respond with force. Good, Tay said quietly. Because I think force is all these people understand. The message launched into the void, a quantum pulse traveling faster than light toward another sleeping station. Inside that station, an admiral dreamed of war and peace. Soon, she would wake to find that war had returned. Whether humanity wanted it or not, Commander Sora Lim woke to the sound of alarms. Her mind took a moment to catch up with her body. The last thing she remembered was kissing her son goodbye and stepping into the pod. The technician had said 50 years. Just 50 years, and then she would see him again as a grown man. Now a stranger in a military uniform was helping her out of the pod, and the alarms were screaming danger. Commander, we need you in the war room, the soldier said. His name tag read Park. Captain Tay is briefing all senior officers. What year is it? Sora asked, her voice rough. 2847, ma'am. The number hit her like a physical blow. Not 50 years. 300. Her son was long dead. Everyone she had known was dead. She gripped the edge of the pod to steady herself, then forced the emotion down. There would be time to grieve later. Right now, people needed her. The war room was crowded with newly awakened personnel, all looking as lost as she felt. Captain Tay stood at the front, his face grim. Beside him was a woman with kind eyes and a man who looked ready to fight the whole galaxy. "I know you're all confused," Tay began. "I know you're scared. I know you want answers. I'll give you what I can. 300 years ago, we went to sleep as part of the Stasis Accords. The galaxy was afraid of us after the Vryn War, and we agreed to step back to let everyone heal. We were supposed to sleep for 500 years. He paused, letting that sink in. Someone woke us early. A Taurian consul named Vex broke into this station, looking for technology to steal. When we refused to cooperate, he attacked us. Now his fleet is on the way, 200 ships strong. We are 3 people with a station that hasn't seen combat in 3 centuries. Sora raised her hand. So why wake us? Why not negotiate? We tried, the woman, Yuna said. They didn't listen. They killed 30 of our people in their last attack. Civilians who just woke up and wanted to go home. The room went silent. Then anger began to build, a rising tide of fury that Sora could feel in the air. What are our orders? Major Hyan Kong asked. He was a big man with scars on his hands and a reputation as the best mech pilot in the fleet. Defend the station, Tay said. Minimize casualties, both ours and theirs. We are not the monsters they think we are. We prove that by being better than they expect. Over the next 3 weeks, Station Arcturus 7 transformed. The awakened personnel threw themselves into preparation with desperate energy. It was easier than thinking about the time they had lost. The people they would never see again, Sora, took charge of tactical planning. She studied the Taurian fleet composition, their weapons, their tactics. Everything was primitive compared to what she remembered. 300 years of technological stagnation had left the current galaxy far behind where humanity had been. It's not even a fair fight, she told Tay one evening. One of our dreadnoughts could take their entire fleet. We don't have a dreadnought, Tay reminded her. We have a science station with defensive weapons. We have more than that. Hyan pulled up a schematic. I've been checking the armory. Captain, we have H7 combat frames. 20 of them. We have plasma lances, quantum disruptors, and... He grinned. We have a Yamato-class siege cannon. Tay stared at the display. That's a planet-killer weapon, which means it will definitely kill a fleet, Hyan said cheerfully. We're not using it, Tay said firmly. That's exactly the kind of overkill that made the galaxy fear us in the first place. Sir, with respect, they're bringing 200 warships to kill 200 people. Maybe a little fear is appropriate. Sora interrupted. What about the Council? Have they responded to our messages? Yuna shook her head. We've sent 15 requests for diplomatic intervention. All ignored. It seems the Council is happy to let Vex handle the human problem quietly. Then they're cowards, Hyan spat. Or they're terrified, Tay said. Either way, we're on our own. The Taurian fleet arrived on schedule. A massive formation of warships that surrounded the station in a sphere of metal and weapons. Consul Vex's face appeared on every screen, his expression triumphant. Humans of Arcturus 7, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and surrender. If you comply, you will be treated fairly. If you resist, you will be destroyed. Tay opened a channel. Consul, you attacked us without provocation. You killed our people. And now you demand surrender? I don't think so. You are 200 against my fleet of thousands. You cannot win. Maybe, Tay admitted. But we can make you regret trying. Last chance, Consul. Leave now, and we'll call this a misunderstanding. Stay, and we'll show you why the first law existed. Vex's laugh was harsh. The first law was superstition. You are relics of a dead age. All ships open fire. The space around Arcturus 7 lit up with weapons fire. Missiles, plasma bolts, particle beams, all converging on the station from every direction. It was overwhelming force, enough to crack a planet. The station's shields held. Every shot, every missile, dispersed harmlessly against barriers that had been designed to withstand weapons far more advanced than anything the Taurians possessed. Return fire, Sora ordered. Target weapon systems only. No kills. The station's defensive grid activated. Precision beams lanced out, striking Taurian ships with surgical accuracy. Weapons exploded. Shield generators burst into sparks. Ship after ship found itself suddenly defenseless, but intact, crews unharmed. Impossible. Vex's voice was panicked. All ships focus fire on Section 7. Overload their shields. 100 ships concentrated their weapons on one point. The shields flickered, energy readings spiking. Warning lights flashed across Sora's console. Shields at 70% in Section 7, Arya reported. If this continues, they will breach. Hyan, you're up, Tay said in the station's launch bay. Major Hyan climbed into his H7 combat frame. The machine stood 4 meters tall, a humanoid shape of armor and weapons that moved like an extension of his own body. Around him, 19 other pilots did the same. Listen up, Hyan said over the squad channel. We go out there, we disable ships, we do not kill. The captain wants to prove we're civilized. So let's be the most civilized warriors these aliens have ever seen. Launch in 5. The frames launched from the station like bullets, accelerating impossibly fast. To the Taurians, they were blurs, ghosts that appeared next to ships and tore into their hulls with bare metal hands. Hyan landed on a cruiser's hull and punched through the armor to rip out the weapon systems. His frame's strength was beyond anything the Taurians had designed against. A frigate fired at him point blank. The shots bounced off his frame's shields. Hyan sighed and pulled the frigate's main cannon off, like plucking a flower. He tossed it gently into space, where it tumbled harmlessly away. This is too easy, one of his pilots complained. Focus, Hyan snapped. Easy means we can be precise. No casualties. Inside the station, Yuna monitored communications from the Taurian fleet. What she heard made her heart sink. Captain, they're calling for more reinforcements. Vex is telling the Council that we're slaughtering his people. But we haven't killed anyone, Tay said. He's lying. He's making us look like monsters to justify his attack. Tay's hands clenched into fists. Of course he is. Arya, are we recording everything? Yes, Captain. Full documentation of all engagement parameters. Good. When this is over, the truth comes out. But the battle was far from over. Even as Hyan's team disabled ship after ship, more Taurian vessels arrived. Vex had called in every favor, pulled every string. The fleet grew to 300 ships, then 400. Sir, Sora said quietly, we can't keep this up forever. Eventually, they'll wear us down through sheer numbers. I know, Tay said. Arya, any response from Arcturus 12? Negative, Captain. The quantum message was received, but no reply has been sent. Tay stared at the tactical display, watching the red dots of enemy ships multiply. They were holding, but barely. And every hour, more ships arrived in the medical bay. Yuna treated injured personnel. Most wounds were minor, stress fractures and bruises from the station's shaking under fire. But some were worse. A young engineer named Mingo had been caught in a power surge when a shield generator overloaded. His burns were severe, Am I going to die? He asked her, his voice weak. No, Una said firmly. Not today. Not on my watch. She worked through the night, using medical technology that was 3 centuries ahead of anything the current galaxy possessed. By morning, Minho was stable and sleeping peacefully. On the bridge, Tay hadn't slept. He watched the battle, watched his people fight with everything they had to avoid killing their enemies. It was the hardest kind of warfare, showing restraint when every instinct screamed to unleash overwhelming force. Captain, Arya said suddenly, I'm detecting a new signature. Quantum space distortion, massive scale. Something is coming. Sora checked her sensors. It's big, whatever it is. Really big. The distortion grew, space bending and twisting. Then it tore open, and through the gap came ships. Human ships. 4 dreadnoughts, each one 3 kilometers of predatory grace. 12 cruisers. 36 fighters. They emerged in perfect formation, and at their head was a flagship that made the Taurian fleet look like children's toys. A voice came over every channel, calm and cold and absolutely certain. This is Admiral Rena Cho of the United Earth Fleet. You have attacked our people. You have violated the first law. Consul Vex, you will withdraw your fleet immediately, or I will remove it for you. Tay felt relief wash over him like a wave. The cavalry arrived. Better late than never, Sora said with a tired smile. Vex's response was defiant. You do not scare me, Admiral. You are outnumbered. All ships, engage the human fleet. So be it, Admiral Rena said, and her voice held a note of sadness. Let them learn. Admiral Rena Cho had been dreaming of her daughter when the wake signal came. In the dream, little Jisoo was laughing, running through grass under a blue sky. Then alarm shattered the memory, and Rena opened her eyes to find herself in a pod, 300 years from home. The briefing had been quick and brutal. Humanity was under attack. Station Arcturus 7 was besieged. 300 years of peace ended because one fool couldn't follow the rules. Now Rena stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Remembrance, watching the Taurian fleet prepare to attack her ships. Behind her, Captain Bora Nam monitored systems, while Commander Dae Kim coordinated the fighter squadrons. 417 enemy vessels, Bora reported. They're organizing into attack formations. They actually think they can win, Dae said, almost admiringly. That takes confidence. Or ignorance, Rena replied. Let's try once more. Open a channel to Consul Vex. Vex's face appeared, his yellow eyes defiant. Admiral, your threats are empty. We outnumber you 10 to 1. Surrender now, and I will allow your fleet to leave peacefully. Rena studied him for a moment. Consul, you don't understand what you're facing. Our ships are 300 years ahead of yours. Our weapons were designed to fight enemies far more dangerous than you can imagine. I am offering you one last chance to leave with your people alive. Take it. I think not, Vex sneered. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Focus fire on the flagship. Destroy them. The Taurian fleet surged forward, 400 ships moving as one. Missiles launched in waves, thousands of them filling space. Energy weapons fired, plasma and particle beams converging on the human dreadnoughts. Shields up, Rena ordered calmly. Weapons free. Precision strikes only. Disable, do not destroy. The missiles reached the human fleet and exploded harmlessly against shields that barely flickered. The energy weapons struck and dissipated like rain on stone. The Taurians might as well have been throwing rocks. Then the human ships fired back. It wasn't a battle. It was a lesson. The dreadnought's main guns fired, beams of coherent energy so precisely controlled they could cut through a ship's armor and disable specific systems without harming the crew. A Taurian battleship found its engines dead in microseconds. Another lost all weapons in a single shot. A cruiser's shields collapsed without the ship itself taking any hull damage. The human cruisers moved through the enemy formation like dancers, their point defense systems swatting aside missiles with casual ease. When they fired, Taurian ships went dark, powerless but intact. The fighters were even more devastating. They moved with impossible speed and agility, their pilots enhanced with implants that let them think faster than any biological brain could naturally manage. They wove through enemy fire, never hit, always striking with perfect precision. Hyon, watching from his combat frame near Station Arcturus 7, whistled low. Now that's how you fight a war. They're not even trying, one of his pilots observed. Look at their power readings. They're operating at maybe 20% capacity. Hyon grinned. Why use a hammer when a scalpel works better? Inside the Taurian flagship, panic had replaced confidence. Our weapons aren't working. An officer shouted. Their shields are too strong. More power. Vex screamed. Divert everything to weapons. Sir, we're already at maximum output. It's not enough. Nothing we have can penetrate their defenses. Vex stared at the tactical display, watching his fleet fall apart. Ship after ship went dark, disabled but not destroyed. The humans were being merciful, and somehow that was worse than if they had simply blown his fleet away. This isn't possible, he whispered. 300 years. Their technology should have degraded. Dr. Mora, who had been silent until now, spoke up. I tried to tell you, Consul. Their stasis technology is perfect. Nothing degrades. Nothing ages. They went to sleep with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. And they woke up with it still perfect, while the rest of us spent 3 centuries making tiny improvements. On the Remembrance, Admiral Rena watched the battle with mixed emotions. Victory was certain, had been certain from the moment her ships arrived. But there was no joy in it. These Taurians were not evil, just ignorant. They had grown up in a galaxy that had forgotten how dangerous humanity could be. Admiral, Bora said, 80% of the enemy fleet is disabled. Remaining ships are attempting to retreat. Let them go, Rena ordered. We made our point. Open a channel to Consul Vex. Vex's face appeared, no longer defiant. Now he looked broken, defeated, scared. What do you want? I want you to understand, Rena said quietly. 300 years ago, we faced an enemy that made your fleet look like children playing with toys. The Vrin consumed civilizations. They turned entire species into slaves. They were unstoppable until they met us. She paused, letting that sink in. We created weapons that could crack planets. We built ships that could destroy stars. We designed AI that could think 1,000,000 thoughts per second. And we won. We destroyed the Vrin so completely that nothing of them remains. Not their ships, not their worlds, not even their DNA. Vex's face had gone pale. I didn't know. No, you didn't. Because the galaxy wanted to forget. They wanted to believe we were just another species, nothing special. They created the first law not to protect us, but to protect themselves from us. Rena leaned forward. We agreed to sleep because we frightened even ourselves. The weapons we used, the things we did to win. We didn't want to be that species anymore. So we chose to step back, to let the galaxy grow without us. And I woke you, Vex said, his voice hollow. Yes, you broke the one rule that kept everyone safe. Now you will face the consequences. Your fleet is disabled. Your reputation is destroyed. And the galaxy will learn that humanity is awake again. She cut the connection and turned to her crew. Captain Bora, take a team to Arcturus 7. I want to meet Captain Tay and his people. Tay, organize recovery operations for the Taurian crews. Make sure they're safe and comfortable. We're not barbarians. The meeting with Captain Tay was emotional. Rena found herself hugging him like an old friend, even though they had never met. But they were both 300 years from home, both thrust into command when all they wanted was peace. You saved us, Tay said simply. You saved yourselves, Rena corrected. You held off a fleet 4 times your size for 3 weeks without killing anyone. That's remarkable restraint, Captain. I'm proud to serve with you. Yuna approached, her medical bag still slung over her shoulder. Admiral, what happens now? The galaxy knows we're awake. They'll be scared. They should be scared, Commander Sora said. She had joined them, along with Major Hyon. We just demonstrated how far ahead of them we are. Which is exactly the problem, Rena replied. We can't go back to sleep. But if we wake everyone up and reclaim our territory, the galaxy will see it as an invasion. We need to find a middle path. Hyon crossed his arms. With respect, Admiral, why should we care what they think? They abandoned us. They let Vex attack us. Why do we owe them anything? Because, Yuna said softly, we're not the monsters they fear. If we act like conquerors, we become what they think we are. Rena nodded. Exactly. We need to be smart about this. Careful. We wake more people, yes, but slowly. We re-establish diplomatic relations. We show the galaxy that we're here to coexist, not to dominate. And if they attack us again? Hyon asked. Then we defend ourselves, Rena said firmly. But we don't strike first. We don't escalate. We be the bigger species, even when it's hard. The discussion was interrupted by Arya's voice. Admiral, incoming transmission from Axiom Prime. The Galactic Council requests an emergency meeting. About time, Tay muttered. The council chamber appeared on the holographic display. Elder Krill sat in his high seat, his crystalline body looking dimmer than usual. Around him, representatives from 47 species waited in tense silence. Admiral Cho, Krill said, his voice heavy with sorrow. The galaxy has learned of the battle at Arcturus 7. We have reviewed the recordings. Consul Vex has been removed from power and will face trial for his crimes. But we must discuss what comes next. We want peace, Rena said simply. We want to wake our people, reclaim our territory, and rejoin galactic society. We have no desire for conquest or revenge. Yet your capabilities terrify us, another counselor said. A floating Quarren orb, pulsed with anxious light. You disabled 400 ships without effort. What else can you do? Many things, Rena admitted. But we choose not to do them. That's what you need to understand. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our restraint. We could have destroyed Vex's fleet. We didn't. We could wake all our people and reclaim the galaxy by force. We won't. We want to live in peace. Can we trust that? The Quarren asked. Elder Krill spoke before Rena could answer. 300 years ago, they made a promise to sleep so we could live without fear. They kept that promise until someone broke it. I believe they will keep their promises now. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted humanity quarantined again. Others wanted them as allies. A few, like the Taurians, argued for strict restrictions on human military operations. Finally, a vote was called. The result was narrow, but clear. Humanity would be recognized as a sovereign power. They could wake their people and reclaim their territory. But they would be monitored, watched, held to their promise of peace. It's not perfect, Tay said after the transmission ended. But it's a start. It's more than we had yesterday, Yuna agreed. Rena looked at her officers. These people who had woken to find themselves in a stranger galaxy. We have work to do. Thousands of stations to wake. Millions of our people to bring back. And we have to do it carefully, Show the galaxy we can be trusted. What about our families? Sora asked quietly. My son. He's gone, isn't he? Dead for centuries. The room fell silent. It was the question they all had, the pain they all carried. I don't know, Rena said honestly. Maybe some people chose to stay awake. Maybe some colonies didn't enter stasis. We'll search every database, check every record. If any of our families survived, we'll find them. It was a small hope, but it was something. And for people 300 years from home, even small hope was precious. 6 months had passed since the battle at the Arcturus 7. Captain Tay stood on the observation deck of the newly awakened colony ship Homeward, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. The planet was still there, still blue and green and beautiful, wrapped in its quantum barrier like a sleeping child under a blanket. Looks the same, Una said beside him. She held a datapad with the codes to lower the barrier, codes that Admiral Rena had entrusted to them. 300 years, Tay said softly, and it waited for us. Behind them, Jay worked at a console with the colony ship's AI. Barrier controls are responding. We can lower it whenever you're ready, Captain. Tay took a breath. This was it, the moment they had been working toward. 50 stations awakened. 10,000 people brought back from sleep. And now, finally, they were home. Lower the barrier, he ordered. The quantum field shimmered and faded. For the first time in 3 centuries, Earth was exposed to open space. The scanners immediately filled with data. Cities still stood, preserved perfectly under environmental shields. Forests had grown wild and beautiful. The oceans teemed with life. Life signs detected, Aria reported. Multiple population centers. Approximately 50,000 humans still on the surface. Una gasped. They stayed. Some people stayed awake. The communications console lit up. A voice, elderly and warm, filled the bridge. Homeward, this is Earth Central. Welcome home. We've been waiting for you. The speaker identified himself as Director Minho Park, one of the volunteers who had chosen to remain awake to maintain Earth while everyone else slept. He was old now, over 300 years old, thanks to life extension technology. How? Tay asked. How did you survive? Carefully, Minho said with a laugh. We kept a small population awake in shifts. Enough to maintain the systems, preserve the knowledge, keep the home fires burning. We knew someone would come back eventually. The landing was emotional. Tay, Una, and Jay stepped off the shuttle onto soil that their ancestors had walked. Director Minho met them personally, a small man with white hair and eyes that held centuries of patience. Your families, he said gently. I have records. Some chose to stay awake. Some are still in stasis nearby. Would you like to know? Tay's hands shook as he took the datapad. He scrolled through names, his heart pounding. And then he saw it. His wife's name. Status, stasis location, Earth Facility 7. She's here, he whispered. She's alive. She's here. Una was crying, reading her own report. Her daughter had stayed awake, had lived a full life, and had great-great-great-grandchildren who were alive right now. Somewhere on this planet, Una's family waited to meet her. Even Jay found his brother's name. Still in stasis, like Tay's wife, waiting. The reunion center was chaos in the best way. People waking from stasis, meeting family members who had stayed awake or had been awakened earlier. Tears and laughter filled the air. Tay stood outside the pod as it opened, his heart in his throat. His wife, Hannah, opened her eyes. For her, it had been one night. She smiled at him. Hey, did I oversleep? Tay pulled her into his arms and held her like you would never let go. "A little bit," he managed to say. "But you're here now. That's all that matters." Across the galaxy, more stations awakened. Admiral Rena coordinated the effort from Arcturus 12, which had become the temporary capital of the reformed United Earth government. Every week, more ships launched. Every week, more colonies came back to life. It was not without problems. Some species in the galaxy remained fearful. There were protests on Consul worlds, demands that humanity be restricted. A few radical groups even attempted attacks on human ships, though these were quickly shut down by both human forces and the Galactic Council's peacekeepers. But slowly, carefully, humanity rejoined the galactic community. Commander Sora took charge of diplomatic relations. She was patient and calm, explaining humanity's history to anyone who would listen. She showed them records of the Vryn War, not to frighten them, but to help them understand why humanity had made the choices they made. "We're not perfect," she told the Council in one memorable session. "We made terrible weapons. We did terrible things. But we also chose to stop. We chose peace when we could have chosen domination. That choice defines us more than our weapons ever could." Major Hyan found a different role. He became an instructor, teaching combat techniques to the Galactic Council's peacekeeping forces. His students were aliens from a dozen species, all eager to learn from the legendary human warriors. "The key," he told them, "is not to win at any cost. The key is to win while being the person you want to be. Power without control is just destruction." Dr. Una Park returned to her old profession as a xenobiologist. But now she studied species that had evolved in humanity's absence, life forms that had emerged in the 3 centuries humans slept. She published papers and gave lectures, bridging the gap between human and alien understanding. "We missed so much," she said in one interview. 300 years of art, music, science, philosophy. All these species grew and changed while we slept. Now we get to learn from them, and they can learn from us. It's beautiful." Consul Vex stood trial for his crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. He had broken the first law, attacked a protected species, and lied to the Council about human aggression. The verdict was guilty on all counts. But when the judges asked the human delegation what punishment they wanted, Admiral Rena surprised everyone. "We want him to serve his sentence teaching others about the first law. Let him spend his life explaining to future generations why the rules exist, why respect for others matters. Let him turn his mistake into a lesson for everyone." Elder Krill, watching from the gallery, felt something like hope. Perhaps this new age would be better than the old one. 2 years after the awakening, a ceremony was held on Axiom Prime. Humanity officially rejoined the Galactic Council as a full member. Captain Tay, now promoted to ambassador, stood before the assembly and made a speech that would be remembered for generations. "We returned not to conquer, but to coexist. Not to dominate, but to contribute. We bring our technology, yes, but we also bring our experience. We know what it means to be so powerful that you frighten yourself. We know what it costs to win a war. And we know that real strength is choosing peace, even when you could choose violence." He paused, looking around the chamber. "The first law was created to protect you from us. But in protecting you, it also protected us. It gave us time to reflect, to remember who we wanted to be. Now we're awake, and we choose to be partners, not rulers. We choose to help build a galaxy where all species can thrive." The applause was genuine. Not everyone was convinced. Not everyone trusted humanity yet. But it was a start. On Earth, Tay and Hana walked through a park in Seoul. The city had been restored, a blend of 300-year-old architecture and modern updates. Children played nearby, human and alien kids together. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Hannah asked. "Going to sleep, I mean." Tay watched a human child, teach an alien child how to kick a ball. Yeah, I do. If we had stayed awake, we would have been the scary overlords. By sleeping, we gave everyone else time to grow, to find their own strength. Now we can meet as equals. Not quite equals, Hannah said with a smile. We're still more advanced. In technology, maybe. But they have 300 years of culture we missed. They have perspectives we don't. That's worth more than any weapon. Jay joined them, leading a group of alien visitors on a tour. He had become a cultural ambassador, showing visitors the wonders of Earth. This is Central Park, he was explaining. It's been here for over 1,000 years. We preserved it through the war, through the stasis, through everything. Because some things are worth protecting. Yuna worked in a research lab where human and alien scientists collaborated on projects that would have been impossible before. Today they were studying a quantum phenomenon that might lead to faster-than-light travel that didn't strain space-time. Tomorrow they would tackle medical research. The day after, something else entirely. We're doing good work, her alien colleague, a crystalline Vesper named Cal, said. Together, we achieve what neither species could alone. Yuna smiled. That's the whole point, isn't it? Together is always better than alone. Admiral Rena stood on the Bridge of Remembrance, watching a new colony ship launch toward a distant star. It carried both humans and aliens, a mixed crew ready to establish the first joint colony. It was an experiment, a test to see if different species could build something together. Think it will work? Captain Bora asked. I don't know, Rena admitted, but I hope so. Because if it does, it means we've finally moved past the fear, past the old divisions. Commander Day monitored the ship's progress. They're clearing the asteroid belt. Jump drive charging. They'll be at their destination in 6 months. Send them our best wishes, Rena ordered. Tell them humanity is proud of them. Back on Arcturus 7, the station that had started it all had become a memorial. Preserved exactly as it was during the battle. It served as a reminder of what could happen when the old rules were broken, and what could be achieved when people chose to fight without losing their humanity. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see the bullet holes in the walls, the burn marks from plasma fire. The records of the 3-week siege where 200 humans held off 400 ships without killing anyone. It's a shrine to restraint, one visitor commented. A monument to the choice to be better. The guide, a young human woman named Zhu, smiled. That's exactly right. My father fought here. He told me the hardest part wasn't the fighting. It was choosing not to unleash our full power. Choosing to be merciful even when we were scared and angry. Why? The visitor asked. Why show mercy to attackers? Because, Zhu said simply, we wanted to prove we were better than our weapons. Anyone can destroy. It takes real strength to protect, even those who hurt you. In the council chambers, new laws were passed. Protections for stasis populations. Rights for awakened species. Trade agreements that benefited everyone. The galaxy was changing, growing, learning from its mistakes. Elder Krill, nearing the end of even his long life, watched with satisfaction. The experiment had worked. Humanity was back, but they were not the terrors from old stories. They were partners, colleagues, friends. The first law served its purpose, he told a young counselor. It protected both humanity and the galaxy. But now we have a second law. Never forget that different can be dangerous, but different can also be wonderful. Learn from each other. Grow together. The young counselor, a human woman named Syrah, nodded. We'll remember. Both the first law and the second. We'll make sure future generations understand. On a distant station, the last of humanity's great sleepers began to wake. 40 million people had been in stasis. Now, steadily, carefully, they returned. Each one woke to a galaxy that was both strange and welcoming, to a future that was uncertain, but hopeful. Captain Tay, ambassador now, received reports of each awakening. He remembered his own confusion, his fear, when he first opened his eyes. He made sure each person had support, had answers, had hope. "We're all in this together," he told a newly awakened soldier. "We lost 300 years, yes, but we gained a chance to start fresh, to be the species we always wanted to be. Don't waste it." The soldier, a young woman who had said goodbye to her parents 3 centuries ago, nodded through her tears. "I'll try. We'll all try." And they did. Across the galaxy, humanity tried. They stumbled sometimes, made mistakes, faced setbacks. But they kept trying, kept reaching out, kept building bridges instead of walls. Years passed. Then decades. The galaxy changed. Human technology spread, but so did alien culture. Mixed crews became common. Mixed colonies thrived. Children grew up knowing multiple species as neighbors, friends, family. The first law was never forgotten, but it was no longer needed. In its place was something better: understanding, cooperation, trust earned through actions, not enforced through fear. On Earth, an old man sat in a garden, watching the sunset. Captain Tay, retired now, thought about the journey. From waking in confusion to standing before the Consul. From fighting for survival to building for peace. It had been hard, but it had been worth it. Hannah joined him, her hand finding his. "Any regrets?" "None," Tay said. "We did good, didn't we? We proved the universe wrong." "The universe had one rule," Hannah said, smiling. "Never wake the humans." "And someone broke it," Tay finished. "Best mistake anyone ever made." Above them, stars filled the sky. Some were human colonies. Some were alien worlds. Many were joint settlements where different species built futures together. The galaxy was vast and complex and beautiful, and humanity was finally truly home, not the rulers of the galaxy, not the sleeping monsters. Just one species among many, choosing every day to be worthy of the second chance they had been given. Choosing to be remembered not for their weapons, but for their wisdom. Not for their power, but for their peace. The universe had learned its lesson. And so had humanity. Together, they would write the next chapter of history. Together, they would reach for the stars.